Hello everyone. So welcome back to the final and the third part of UVM verbosity override methods. And this time we are going to use the runtime methods. So it basically means that uh, you will use these methods while your code is running. So it will be used after the code is compiled, and then using the command and using appropriate argument you can overwrite the verbosity of whatever the targeted class is. So mainly there are two methods. The first one has the lowest priority and it has even lower priority than all the override methods that you might have used inside the inside the test class. So all these methods which are written inside your code, this will have highest priority when compared to the one which I am going to use. So let's begin. So let's say I just want to comment all the verbosity override methods. So now all the verbosity override methods are commented. So currently the simulation will be run on the default method, on the default verbosity threshold, which is UVM medium. And let's see what were the modifications we did in our last lecture. So I think we did some modification for drivers macro. Yeah, you can see it right here that right now it is UVM high. And we did the similar modification, I guess, to the scoreboard. Yep. So we did UVM low for one of the two UVM info macros. So what we are going to do, so first we will run the simulation with the default verbosity threshold, and let's see whether we have made any changes. And yeah, we also made changes in UVM monitor, and you can see it right here. We have changed it to UVM high. So if we run the simulation with the default threshold, this UVM info of UVM monitor will not get printed, and also the UVM info of the driver will not get printed, but both the UVM infos of the scoreboard should get printed because UVM low and UVM none are below the threshold of UVM medium. So let's do a simulation run for this. So let me confirm it for one more time. Yeah. So all the verbosity overrides are commented. So first, let's compile the top level code. Okay. Let's run the simulation. So let's check. So you can see it right here that both the scoreboards UVM info macros are getting printed on the console, and in the summary you can see that uh, there aren't any messages from the monitor as well as from the driver. So you can see that our transaction begins from here, and this is the UVM info macro from the sequence object. And then here we are supposed to print the UVM drivers UVM info macro. But since we have changed the verbosity threshold for that particular UVM info to UVM high, it will not get printed. And same goes for UVM monitor. It was supposed to be printed here. So instead of doing the modification in the code like we did in our last lecture, uh, using the verbosity override methods in the upper level component like test. Instead of that, you could just do that right away inside the console here using an argument. So you don't have to compile your code again and again. You could just do a simulation run, and using that argument, you can change the verbosity. So since, let's see, UVM monitors verbosity is the UVM high, and the verbosity of the UVM info which is present in the driver is UVM high. We need to at least set the verbosity to UVM high to get it printed. So let's do that. So to do that, I will just run the code for one more time. Since I have already compiled the code and I haven't made any changes, I could just go ahead and run the code. Right now, I just need to add one argument to change the overall threshold, the verbosity threshold. And that argument is in capital letter UVM verbosity. So it should be in capital letter. Just remember that. UVM verbosity equals to, and again in capital letter, the targeted verbosity threshold that you want to change, that you want to replace with the, I mean, you want to replace the default verbosity of UVM medium. So let's set it to UVM high. So this will change the threshold from UVM medium to UVM high. So now after this simulation run, we are supposed to get all the messages of UVM monitor and UVM driver to be printed on the console. So let's run it with this argument. The simulation engine has started. Let's run the simulation. Okay, now what we have here, as you can see it right here in the summary, that all the UVM infos and UVM infos of the UVM monitor and the UVM driver are getting printed. So you can see it right here that here our transaction starts with the sequence. This is the last repetition, by the way. And here we are getting the driver's UVM info macro. And here we are getting the monitor's UVM info macro. So this is a simple way. You do not need to make any changes inside your code base, and you could directly change the verbosity by writing this argument, and you do not need to compile your code again. So this is a more preferred way, but let's check let's check uh, the priority. So if we use this with the one that we will use inside the code, so which one will have precedence over the other? Which basically means that which one will have higher priority. So let's find out. So we are back in the test component, and here we already know that using the verbosity methods, the one which is more specific, like the one such as severity, ID, and verbosity, this one is more specific when compared to the level ones or the ID ones. So this one will have more priority over the ID ones, and the ID one will have more priority over the level ones. And it is because it is based on the order of specificness. So this is more specific when compared to the others. So let's say if you want to comment out one of the verbosity, and what is this? Okay, it is targeting the scoreboard one. Let's say we want to target the driver one, and we are setting the verbosity to UVM low. and this should be agent.driver. So right now, using this specific method, we are targeting that all the UVM info macros with driver ID and with UVM info severity, which will be the case for most of the cases, we are setting the threshold to be UVM low. So how will it affect the one with the driver ID? So here you can see it that we have set the UVM verbosity as UVM high. So if we do that, it should not get printed because of this method which we are using inside the test class. But in parallel, we will also be using the argument one, the command line argument one, which will be used during the runtime, and we will be using it to make the entire threshold to be uh, UVM high. So will this take effect? And this will when this will take effect, the UVM info macro inside the driver will not get printed, of course. And if the one in the command one, that is UVM verbosity equals, if this one takes effect, then the driver message, then the driver's UVM info should get printed. Otherwise, it will not get printed. So let's find out which will have higher priority. So this one is active. So since we made a change into our code base, let's compile the code for one more time. Okay. Now let's run the top level module with the same argument, the exact same one. So this is changing the threshold to UVM high. So let's find out which will take precedence for the driver class. So as you can see it right here that we don't have any reports for UVM driver. And let's check our transactions. And you can see that transaction starts from here. The sequence UVM info is getting printed. And here we are supposed to get the UVM drivers UVM info, which is not getting printed even though we pass the argument. So this basically proves that this one has higher priority when compared to this one. So the one which are written in the code will of course have higher priority than the one which are used as an argument on the console during the runtime. And like the code one, we also have another command in which you could target the specific hierarchy and the specific ID. So let's find out that one. So let's comment this one. So still the default verbosity threshold is UVM medium, and we want the one which is present inside the driver to be printed. And we will only change the verbosity threshold for the driver. So the one which is inside the monitor will still not get printed. So first, let's compile the code for one more time just to play safe. So this time the argument should be written in small letters in the lowercase one, and the argument is UVM set verbosity. And then it is followed by four arguments. The first argument is the hierarchy in which you want to take this verbosity into the effect, and it is very similar to this. So here inside our test object, we could see this. So it is just referencing the particular hierarchy. Since we are targeting the driver class, we will start with UVM test top, which is UVM test, and then inside it, we will go to the environment, then inside it, we will go to the agent, inside it, we will refer to the driver class. So this is the first argument, and the second argument is the ID itself. And the ID of the UVM info macro inside the driver is get type name, which will return the name of the class, its driver. So remember, here in the command, you should not write everything between this. You should directly write the ID. After that, the third argument is the targeted verbosity threshold, and I will write it as UVM full. After that, there is an additional argument which is the phase, and I want this to take effect between the run at the starting of the run phase. So I will write run. So remember, the only difference between this and the other one, which is not the specific one, is that this should be written using the lowercase letters, and the previous one was UVM verbosity. This one is UVM set verbosity, and it has four arguments. The first argument is the hierarchy. The second argument is the targeted ID. The third argument is the targeted verbosity, and the fourth argument is phase. So let's just run it. So as you can see it, that by targeting everything inside the driver, we are able to print all the UVM infos of the driver. So our transaction starts from here inside the sequence, then it is followed by the driver. And again, the UVM monitors UVM info macro is not getting printed because we are not targeting that particular object. I'm sorry, the component. So this is how you could target the specific ID and the specific hierarchy using the command line methods. And what if I want to change, uh, if I want to take this into the effect for both the monitor and the driver class? So yeah, we could just fiddle with the hierarchy reference and the hierarchical reference and the IDs. So I will run the code one more time, and here's the benefit we are getting. We do not need to compile the code again. So we will just add the argument, and this time we are targeting anything which is under the agent, and we have monitor, sequencer, and the driver. So inside the UVM test, we have environment, and inside the environment, we have agent, and inside the agent, we will reference anything. So using this, we are just doing the wildcard reference. So anything under the hierarchy of UVM agent will be targeted. And now comes the important part. Still, we have the ID as an argument. So here we will use the all. So all will select all the IDs in this particular hierarchy. And the remaining ones are going to be same. The targeted verbosity should be UVM full and the phase should be run phase. So let's find out whether this works or not. Okay, at the first glance, you can see that it is also working for the monitor. So right now, our transaction starts from here. Then we are getting the UVM info of the driver. Then we are getting the UVM info of the monitor, then of the scoreboard. So using the UVM site verbosity method, we could refer to the specific class and specific IDs. In this particular case, I just wrote the argument as all. So all basically means underscore all underscore basically means that all the IDs will be targeted using this particular command line method. So that's all for this video. So these are all the three ways of overriding the verbosity. The first way is through the code itself, and these ones have the highest priorities. And between this, there's also a priority level, which depends on how specific that method is. And the second one are in the command. So in the command we have two methods. The first one is just the simple one, which is in uppercase letter UVM verbosity equals to whatever the targeted verbosity. And the third one is the one which we just used, the specific one. And using it, you can target the specific hierarchy. So I hope you find this video useful. Please stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.